What's going on, everybody? For today's video, I thought I would do a third part. I know I've already gotten a lot of requests to do crazy gun shop stories, and it really doesn't take very long for those stories to pop up. I'm just doing it in my room. The last week's been very busy for me at the shop. I like to try to, in between customers, like either go in the back room or just set up a little table in the shop and film these kind of videos, but man, the whole last week was just beyond crazy for me, so here we are. I'm actually gonna, and I left my computer on to kind of go over a little timetable here. The first story is actually going to be from a distributor, or rather I guess, direct dealer program, if you want to call it that. And I'm going to start off with a company you probably know of if you're familiar with firearms, and that is Fiocchi. So, as we have continued to grow, I typically do business with a lot of distributors, Lipsy's, RSR Group, Chattanooga, some bigger gun distributors. You can get ammo, guns, and everything from them. But one of the perks of going direct with a company is typically you get better pricing, you get more availability. So I wanted to go direct with an ammo manufacturer, and that way, especially since we're kind of in shotgun season, we could get ammo, we could get just, I could call Fiocchi and just say, hey, I need pallets of 12 gauge, and they'll just ship it right to me. Whereas a distributor, they may or may not have that stuff in stock, and again, the pricing's usually a lot better if you go direct. So, like I said, I was trying to go direct with them, and this is sort of the whole timetable here, and it is just, I still can't believe this happened to me, especially from a actual, like, big dealer. But on August 6th, I reached out to them. He gave me a call, this representative from Fiocchi, and he was almost smug talking to me. I get it. I've only been open I'm coming up on a year, but I know I'm a relatively smaller shop. But so he called me up. He's like, hey, I heard you wanted to go direct with Fiocchi. I said, absolutely, yes. I told him, shotgun season's coming up. I would love to, I have a garage door. I'd love to just get some pallets of 12 gauge in here. I really like Fiocchi. And he was kind of like, well, if you just want shotgun ammo, we really don't do business with those, with just one type of ammo. And I told him, I said, the Fiocchi Range Dynamics, the 9mm, that is like exclusively what I sell. People love that stuff. So I said, no, I would also use you guys for pistol. And then he goes, well, if just shotgun and just pistol, that's still not really enough for us to go direct with you. And I said, I was like, kind of getting a little perturbed at this point. I said, I'm very interested in becoming a direct dealer with you. What is it going to take to do that? I looked over at my ammo pile. I said, I have 9mm, I have 300 blackout, I have shotgun shells. Like, currently in Fiocchi, I already have tons of products from you. So what is it that you need from me to make an opening order? And I'll happily meet those requirements. So he's like, oh, okay, well, if that's the case, then I think we can do business. So already he's been this guy was weird with me. So we hung up the phone. He sent me over the paperwork. Again, this was August 6th. Sent me over all the paperwork. I filled it out very quickly and got it back to him. Then on, so August 6th, like I said, he sent it to me. I sent it right back to him. It was either the same day or I think it might have been the very next day, but regardless, it was very quick. So it was then what's the date on that one? Okay, on September 12th, so we are now over a month later, I messaged him again saying, "Good afternoon. Was wondering if there's any update on me getting set up with an account. Thanks." Just short and simple. And then he got back to me the following Tuesday, so this is now September 17th. So again, the initial application was on August 6th. I guess he forgot about my application. I truly believe, and I'll explain a little later, I don't think he ever wanted to do business with me. Whether it's him or just Fiocchi themselves, I don't know, but I don't think they ever wanted to do business. So on September 17th, he said, "Sorry for the delay. The paperwork's been submitted, and you can get your initial order started at your convenience. I can enter it on the B2B portal. Thank you." So, and then he sent me over all the pricing for going direct. So I actually, that day, I sat down, I had a little bit of time, and I started getting an opening order together. Well then, this was at 9:30 in the morning, and at 12:06 that afternoon, so 3 hours later, unprompted, he said, "Hey, I was just informed that since your credit references are only from," and again, he said, "are only from Fiocchi distributors," which doesn't make sense, but "we will not be able to set up an account for you. Are you direct with any other companies other than wholesalers?" So, before I even filmed this video, I just went back and looked at the application. It does not say anything about wholesalers or direct or anything like that. It just says, I can even pull it up here. Hold on one second. It says for the references, it says businesses, manufacturers, and suppliers only. No utilities or credit card companies. So I didn't do any utilities and I didn't do credit card companies. It says businesses, manufacturers, and suppliers. So in my opinion, a company like Lipsy's, wholesaling accounts, which is very common in the firearms industry, those should have sufficed. And I put down 6 of them, all of which I've done tons of business with. It does not say anywhere on there, direct dealer accounts. It just says businesses, manufacturers, and suppliers. And again, in my opinion, a company like Lipsy's, who they supply firearms, that was not on this form. So I put down 6 wholesale accounts that I've been doing business with over the last year. I've done tons of deals with them, and in my opinion, those should have sufficed. But again, it does not specify direct dealers. So now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he gave me an account, and then now he's backtracking saying, "No." And again, his wording is weird here. He said, "Since your credit references are only from Fiocchi distributors." I think he meant to say, like wholesaler accounts, but "Are you direct with any companies other than wholesalers?" Again, so what I've noticed a lot here is he kind of bends and changes the rules up as I go along. So that was not a requirement when he first reached out to me, that I had to be direct dealers with people. And now all of a sudden it is. So he gave me an account and then backtracked on it. So I said, "Yes, I am direct with Benchmade knives if you want me to put them down as a reference." So again, going direct with a lot of companies, like Benchmade for example, they required an initial opening order of $10,000 worth of knives. So going direct has a little bit of a drawback because you have to shell out a lot of money to stock your store with their stuff, but then you get really good pricing than what you normally would get. Hence why I wanted to go direct with Fiocchi. So then he said, "I will still need 3 references, question mark." So again, I feel like every time I'm meeting the goalpost, so to speak, he keeps moving it. And what I mean is, the initial application just said 4 to 6 references. I gave him 6 references. And then he changed it to, they actually have to be direct dealers. They can't be wholesale references. So then I said, again, he said, "Are you direct with any other companies other than wholesalers?" I said, "Yes, I am. Bench paid." And then he's now changing it to, "Actually, I need three." So even then, the initial application that he sent me said 4 to 6, and now he's changing it up to three. So I feel like, again, it's not me and my requirements or anything like that. It's just, I don't think they ever wanted to do business. And case in point, um, I'll throw staccato out there for a second as a good way to handle it. And what I mean by that is, when I first opened, I reached out to become a staccato dealer. And they were very professional about it. They said, "Hey, look, basically, we have a lot of dealers as it is now, and we can't keep up with the supply of those current dealers. So we don't want to go adding new ones and kind of, upsetting the new dealers. So we'd like to keep our current dealers. Let's not add new ones and meet the current needs that we're facing." And I feel like that was a very professional and polite way of saying, "No, we can't take you on right now." Whether that was because I was a small shop or it truly wasn't like a, supplying issue, um, frankly, I didn't care either way. It was just a very respectable way to tell me no. And I really respected that. And they even said, "Hey, look, in a year from now, maybe the situation will change. Try applying again in a year and, see if our situation's changed any." So that's a very professional way of just letting me know, "Hey, no, we can't take on new dealers right now." And I feel like that's what Fiuki should have just done from the beginning then. His phone call with me about, "Oh, if you just want shotgun ammo, then no, we're not going to do business." And again, that's not what I was after. I was just like, I honestly, if this had gone through, I would have probably just carried Fiuki ammo for all my calibers, and for everything. Um, but, like, I don't know what this. So I said, I responded. So again, in one of the emails early on, or I think it was on the phone call, he mentioned that the opening order had to be between $15,000 and $20,000. Um, so I did. I've been, ever since August 6th, I've been saving up. I had $15,000 set aside. So, in my opinion, why do I even need references when I'm saying, "Here's a check for $15,000, take it"? And they're telling me no, they don't want my money. So I said, "So what you're telling me is that you will not give me an account unless I have direct references, even when I have $15,000 set aside to pay you for the opening order?" He responded with, "That is what I was being told. That is what I am being told. I will call my manager to see if there's anything else we can do." This was on Friday, September 20th. And then on Monday, September 23rd, so 3 days later, he responded and said, "I checked with the sales manager, and I am sorry to say that for the time being, that is where we stand." So I can't believe I even have to make this like whole opening part of this video here. I'm telling Fiocchi, "Here's a check for $15,000, and they're saying, unless you have a direct reference, we don't want your money. Your money is no good to us here," which is insane to me. I've never had a company say my money is no good to them. And again, at this point, clearly they do not want to do business. I don't know if it's just this guy that I've been dealing with, this Ryan guy I've been dealing with, or if it's Fiocchi themselves who doesn't want to do business with me. But I can't believe. So about 2 months they kind of strung me along, and I'm just appalled. Again, at that point they clearly don't want to do business with me. But I almost wanted to respond and saying, um, well, I'll pull it up right now. I'm currently sitting at $200,000 on Lipsies in sales. They're the ones I mainly use, but so they're so hung up on a $15,000 reference that if they called my first reference that I put down and saw that I've done $200,000 worth of sales with them, but because they're a wholesaler, their word's no good. I don't understand this industry. I really don't. I I said, hey, here's a check for $15,000, and they're saying, oh no, you don't have. You need a reference to hand us that check. It is just, I don't know. Well, let me know your thoughts because I am just dumbfounded. Um, I guess I'll spend my money elsewhere, but I really can't believe I'm begging to give them my money to become a dealer, and they're like, actually, you need a reference for you to hand us that check. I can't just hand you the check. So I think that's enough about Fiocchi. If you know someone at Fiocchi or whatever, let me know. I'll give you this guy's name and all the emails, but well, frankly, I don't even want to do business with him at this point. It's left a bad taste in my mouth, but um, I just can't understand. I really can't understand it. I had to stop myself there because I tend to get very passionate and start to repeat myself, but anyway, I'll leave the Fiocchi story there. But my next stories are going to be more general, so to speak, and what I mean by that is they happen a lot, so rather than do like one specific instance, I'm just going to kind of give you like the broad, what typically happens. So the first one I want to bring up is my used price negotiations. And what I mean by that is I've never seen an industry quite like firearms or anywhere. Like, could you imagine walking into, and I know I just said used, but people try it for new stuff too. Could you imagine walking into like a doctor's office, and you're like, hey, I don't have insurance. What's your self-pay rate? And like, oh, well, without insurance, it's $100. And then you as the customer would be like, could you do any better on that? Could you imagine going out to dinner? You're sitting down, Texas Roadhouse or something. They hand you the menu, and you look at the menu, and you look at the waiter and say, I see this burger is $14. Could you do any better on that? Like, I've never seen another industry quite like firearms, where people, for anything, so, like new guns, I've explained before, but new guns really don't have that much of a markup on them. Used is typically where I make my money at. Majority of new guns, you're somewhere around $100 profit. But again, sometimes you're, like for a lot of guns, you're shelling out, $600, $700, $800 just to make 100. And then when you multiply that by hundreds of guns in the store, it's a very pricey industry to be in. So the used guns, typically what will happen, and I'll use a Glock 19 as the example here. Let's say it's like a slightly used Gen 4 or something. If you don't know what that is, I'll kind of keep you up to speed here. So brand new, I don't know, let's say, I actually don't know I'll just throw out generalizations here. Actually, we'll go with a Gen 5 Glock 19. Brand new, they're going for $540. So for you to walk in a store, buy it brand new, you're going to be paying about $540. If you pay more than that, whatever store you're going to is robbing you. Yeah. I explain that to people all the time, and they're like, oh, I just got done paying $650 for this gun. You have it here for $540. And when I explain to them that that's kind of the price that Glock sets, that's where it should be at, like, yeah. But, so $540. You take it home, you shoot it a handful of times, and you're like, you know what, it's not for me, I want to sell it. As a customer, that gun there, and I'm just going to use generalizations here, but ballpark a slightly used Glock 19 typically sells for about, 400 bucks. So you are currently holding a $400 gun because it is now in used condition. They are just like cars. So as soon as a car drives off the lot, it immediately depreciates like thousands of dollars. Why? Because they can't sell it back as new and it's now used. So your $540 gun is typically now worth about $400 on the used market. Now that's you. If you wanted to throw it out online, if you wanted to sell it to another customer or friend or something like that, that's what the gun's worth. What they like to do is people will bring it into the shop. Well, again, it's worth $400. That is what I'm going to sell it for in my shop. So for you to come in and want some money for it, well, now I'm not at $400. I have to be, even cheaper than that. Typically for used Glocks, I'm at like 250 bucks. Again, this is general, but if you have the original box, all the paperwork and everything like that, I do a little better, but ballpark, a used Glock is about 250 bucks is what I'll offer you. So I try to explain people that sort of process, and typically they understand it, but yes, you bought it, even if you bought it a week ago and it was $540, it is now used, so the gun's now only worth $400. I have to make some money on that, so I'm only going to offer you about, $250 or so. And that's sort of where, and that's sort of the nice thing with used guns. Like, so in that scenario, let's say that deal happens, I would sell it for $400, you'd make about 150 bucks. So that's typically, it gives me some wiggle room. And the other problem with used guns is I can't guarantee that they always work. So you hand me the used Glock, I can kind of function test it, make sure it works as best as I can, but I can't take it to the range and fire it. And I've had it happen before where someone will sell me an old revolver, they took it to the range, and it wasn't firing, it needed like tons of work to it, and that's just sort of the risk with used guns. So frankly, I'm not going to pay top dollar for a used gun when I can't even guarantee it works. So that's sort of the general pricing scheme for like used firearms. So that's sort of like my first point here is trade-ins. I get it all the time, and I have to keep referring back to the whole car thing, where it doesn't matter if you've shot the gun 100 times, or frankly, if you've never shot it. I appreciate other shops will do some scummy things, but I'm not like that. If you bought it, took it home, and even handled it, it is now a used firearm, just like a car. My brother, for example, his truck, same scenario, I explain this to people too. His truck, brand new from the factory, someone bought it, drove it 10 miles home, realized that it was their mom, who I guess they were going to transport in this truck, she couldn't get in the truck. So the truck was worthless to them, so they brought it right back. It had 17 miles on it, and they couldn't sell it as new anymore. They had to sell it as used. It had one drive to a person's house and back, so it is still basically new, but they can't sell it that way. They have to sell it used. It is not new anymore. So I get it all the time. Someone will buy a gun, they'll take it home, they'll shoot one magazine through it, and then they'll bring it back in saying, oh, can I get a full refund? Or if you bought the gun from me, I'll work with you a little bit, but if you bought the gun from somewhere else and then brought it to me, trying to get some cash for it, frankly, it doesn't, again, it's scummy to do it that way, but it doesn't matter if the gun was shot once. It's used. So explaining that to people almost drives me mad. The one instance I had, so one of the scenarios I'll bring up to people as an example is, like my dad, for example, had bought a brand new, it was a Smith & Wesson 10 millimeter revolver. And from the factory, it wouldn't cock back right. I guess there was too much. They said they had to replace the yoke on it, but I guess there was too much material, so the hammer was kind of hanging up. But so from the factory, brand new, it had issues. Now they have a great warranty. We sent it to them. They fixed it and sent it back. No problems. But one of the instances I'll bring up is if someone brings a gun in and they're like, "Oh, I've never shot it. It's still brand new." Whether it is, maybe you've shot it and done something, and I tell people, like, I'm not calling you scummy or anything, but these guns from the factory can have issues. So for me to buy it, throw it on the wall, and sell it as new, if it does have an issue like that, and let's say the company, I know a lot of companies really don't care, but let's say that company is like, "Hey, where'd you get this from?" "Oh, I got it brand new from Pearson Firearms." They're going to look back at their serial numbers and say, "We didn't sell this to Pearson Firearms. We're not going to do a warranty on it." That usually doesn't happen, but that can. And so this is just, there's other scenarios here for your used gun. I can't sell it as new. It's just period. I can't. It's just explaining that to people just drives me mad. I get people all the time that, like, most of the, like 99% of the time they understand. Like, I tell them, like, the whole car reference, and they understand. But there's some, like almost weekly that walk in and they're like, I had one guy, I explained the whole warranty to him. He's like, "Well, then how about I'll sell it to you as new, and how about I'll buy a warranty for the gun." I said, that's not you're missing the point here. It's a scummy and shady business practice to be selling used firearm as new. I'm not that way. I'm not gonna do it. I wouldn't want that done to me. So, no, it's not you're missing the point on the warranty thing. It's not a new gun. It's a used gun. So it almost just drives me mad. Some of the customers, and just almost drives me mad explaining it to them. And then the other one that gets me will be, again, I'm a gun dealer. I can go on Lipsy's, and I don't even remember off the top of my head, but, like, let's just say a Glock 19, brand new. They sell for $540. I think I pay like $475. Glocks are horrible markup, but I pay $475 for a brand new Glock. I sell it for $540, so I make a little bit of cash. I make a little bit of money on it. And that's another one that'll drive me crazy, is people will bring in these guns and they'll be like, again, I sell it for $540. I know there's shops in the area that'll sell them brand new for like $650. Just scummy business practices from other shops. So then they'll come into my shop and they'll be like, "Hey, I paid $650 brand new for it. I'm willing to take, $550. And I look down, I say, "I'm selling them brand new for $540, so I'm not going to give you $550 for a used one." And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, so if you're selling them for brand new for $540, can I get $540 for it?" And again, no. I can just go online, click some buttons, and pay $475 for it. So, no. Like, it's funny trying to explain to people, like, where I'm at on pricing and, like, sort of the reason why. And I get it. I was just for a long time I was a customer too, but just drives me, why I'm not going to pay you, like, more money than I can get it brand new for. I had a guy who didn't understand the concept that I can get the guns cheaper than what I'm selling them for, which blew my mind in and of itself. How he thought I was making money was beyond me, but so again, he went to another shop. It was a Henry 360 Buckhammer, brake action. He wanted the lever action, but they were hard to get at the time, so he just settled for the brake. He had me put the gun on my wish list. So what a wish list is, if the gun's out of stock, I can put it on my wish list. That way, as soon as it pops back up again, whether it's just a hard-to-get gun, or it truly is just out of stock, my rep will give me one. She'll set one aside for me and just ship it to me. So he's like, "Hey, can you put it on the wish list?" I said, "Sure." So what I did, and about a month goes by, I call him up saying, hey, I got one in today. He's like, oh, I ran out and bought the brake action because I didn't know how long it would take to get it. So he brought it in to me to try to trade. And again, he went to a local shop and paid $550 for this gun. Now, he wanted a full $550 for it to trade towards the to trade towards the lever action. I was like, again, first of all, this is used, so no. And secondly, I pulled it up at the time. I can't remember. I think my price was like $450 or something. I pulled it up. I'm like, I can go to my distributors and buy a brand new one for $450. So there's no shot I'm paying you a full $550 for a used one. He's like, well, I just got done paying $550 for it. I don't want to lose money. And I had explained to him, I said, you told me to wish list the lever gun. Why did you just impulse run out and buy a brake action if that's not the one you wanted? He's like, oh, well, I didn't really know. I just needed a $360 hammer right now. So, just drove me wild. And so the other one is, since we're on the topic of used, it's the negotiation. I kind of started to talk about it, and then I like to ramble if you can't tell. It's like used price negotiations. So what people like to do is they'll walk in. I'll just use the Glock as the example since we've already gone over it. Let's say I have a used Glock on my shelf for $400. The first thing they typically ask is, hey, you got any wiggle room on that Glock? If you're good at negotiating, you'll say, hey, you got any wiggle room in that Glock? And I will always say, oh, absolutely I do. Because again, typically I'll budget like $25 or something like that. Makes the customer feel good that they got a deal. I get rid of a used gun. It's a win-win. Because again, that's $400 I have tied up into a used inventory. I could go towards, buying new, fresh, whatever guns. So from there, it's typically, again, if you're I almost sound like a pawn shop, but again, people in the firearm industry love to try to get a deal. So if you're good at this, you'll say, you got any wiggle room? I was like, yeah, I do. And you'll say, I see you got it for $400. Would you take $350 or something like that? And like you'll throw a counter offer out. And then at that point, now the ball's back in you see my price on the tag, you offer a price, and at that point I can say, I was thinking something like $375. How's that sound to you? And then they can either hit me back saying, yeah, that's a good deal, I'll take that. So you just got $25 off pretty easily, actually. And then at that point, if you're like, no, I'm really around like the $350 mark is where I'm comfortable at, like then you throw it back to me. It's a fun, healthy negotiation. And heck, I might even, depending on if the gun's been sitting a while or whatever, I might say, you know what, it's been sitting a while, sure, I'll do $350. And you potentially could just get $50 off. Like I said, typically I'm 25, but if they drive a hard bargain, I'll go down to $50 off. But that's what a good negotiation looks like. Like you tried, and honestly, with me, most of the time you will get a little bit of a deal. It's nothing earth shattering, but hey, $25 is $25 kind of thing, or even $50 if you negotiate good. What drives me crazy is the one where they'll walk in, they'll see my tag for a Glock 19, $400. Hey, you got any wiggle room on that? I said, yeah. And what's the one that they always say? What's the lowest you'll go on it? So, and I saw this on a TikTok the other day, and I actually started using it. I tell customers, I look at them, I say, I'm not going to start negotiating with myself now, am I? So, again, I'm not like a salesperson or anything. I really am not. It's just, if you're being friendly to me, honestly, having some fun with it, absolutely, I'll cut you a little deal, you know, there's no harm in trying. But what drives me crazy is I have a sticker that says $400, and now you're like, because I'm asking, just drop the price for me. Just drop it. What I always at that point I say, I'll bring out the tag. I'll say, the lowest I'll go is what's on the sticker here. Like, again, I'm not going to start negotiating with myself. I have a price on the sticker. That's really what I want to get for it. But again, if you're nice and you're being, a friendly customer or whatever, and then at that point, if you're like, or heck, if you're even just, hey, would you knock $25 off for me? Like, I can work with that. Like that's something. I'm not just gonna start dropping the price for no reason just because you're, it drives me crazy. Sometimes I'll hit them back with, I'm at 400. Where are you at? Like again, like the whole point of it is a negotiation. Like if you're gonna go down that route, a lot of people just see the price, the 400, and they pay it. But again, there's something about firearms where people feel like they need to get a deal, and it just drives me crazy that they're like, to be fair, I don't really like. I don't know. It just drives me crazy. Like I had one guy, and the reason I'm even bringing this up is yes, he walked in. I had was it used Keltec. I was asking $200 for it, and he's like, "What's the lowest you'll go on there?" I looked at him. I said, 200. Where are you at on the price? And he just kept hitting me back. He's like, that depends on what your lowest dollar is. And like he bounced that back like 2 or 3 times to me, and I didn't, but I was about to be like, I had some wiggle room, but you're not really negotiating with me here, so I'm firm at 200 now. Like, he finally, like, it's almost like a light bulb clicked for him, and he's like, I really want like $25 off. And I said, sure, for 175 you can have it, sure, who cares? But like, he just kept bouncing it around. Like, depends on what the lowest you'll go is. Again, like, my price is on the tag. I'm not just gonna start dropping the price. Just like, I'd love to see him in a car salesman lot. That's all I'd say. I would love to see it. But that's just not a negotiation. A negotiation is, I got a price, you hit me with something, either I accept or I counter. If I counter, then you either accept or counter. Like, it's a back and forth thing, not I got a price, and now it's my turn to change the price. Like, I don't know. In my opinion, you're lucky I'm even willing to consider dropping the price, yet alone, it's just crazy to me how you just walk into a shop and just, like, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head where that would apply. Like, I refer to them like cars a lot, but I don't understand where you would. I guess cars would be, if you walk into a used car lot and you see a car for $10,000, if you walk up to them and say, hey, can you do any better on that price? They're probably basically going to laugh at you. And they might lower it a little bit, but they're not taking you seriously, because that's not a serious offer. That's not a serious anything. Now, if it's a $10,000 car, you walk in and you say, I got $9,500 in cash, take it or leave it. Like, whether they do or don't, that's a negotiation. That's sort of we might actually consider that offer kind of thing. So it's just funny how people, you walk into the shop, you see the price, and then you just drop it for me, just cause. Or the one that kills me is they want me to drop the price, and they're not even serious about the gun. So I have an old Colt Woodsman from the '50s in my shop, and I think I'm asking $800 for it. Do I have some wiggle room on that? Absolutely. I think the start would be like a $50 drop on it. But so I had a guy. He's looking at like 20 different guns in the shop. I can tell he's not really serious about anything. And he gets to that. He's like, "Ooh, Colt Woodsman. You got any wiggle room?" And I said, "Yeah." I said yes. And he did the, "Well, what's your bottom dollar?" I said, I'm not going to start negotiating with myself here. You know, what price are you at?" And then he just throws out some oddball. He's like, "Oh, I'd be somewhere like $500." Like, you want me to drop $300? And again, like the way he's walking around, and I think it's different if you're looking at the gun, you've felt it, pulled the trigger on it, you know you're playing around with it and really checking it out, and you're like, "Man, I'm really serious about this, but the price, could you knock a little bit?" Like, that shows me you're serious about making a deal. Something like that, you didn't even touch the gun. I don't know if you've ever even felt a Colt Woodsman before. You might have, you might not have, but you didn't even look at or touch the gun, and you want me to come off $300? That's not a. I mean, that's just a slap in the face, is what that is. Like, I don't understand what goes through people's minds sometimes. And then at that point, like, that's. I don't think it was a real offer to begin with, but that was such a slap in the face. I literally just walked away. I was like, "You can keep checking out the store, but that's, if you were interested in that, I'm not negotiating at all. At that point, you're paying the full $800. Um, like, that's, yeah, not even close." Yeah, would you please just take $300 off just because I asked real quick? It's crazy. It is just absolutely crazy what people. Um, I feel bad for them. I almost do. Like, I'd love to see some of these people at a car dealership. Again, realistically, with anything, cars, guns, whatever, you know, the prices that I'm asking are fair. It's if you want to work a little bit of a deal out, again for 25, if I'm feeling good that day, maybe $50 off. That's reasonable. That's a reasonable thing to expect. Um, if you come in and you know I got a $300 gun on the wall, and you're like, would you knock $150 off of that? Like, that's not a realistic like, that's not an offer. That's an insult, is what that is. Especially if the gun's truly worth $300, because now I'm actually losing money because I almost want to help you out at that point. Yeah, if you're actually interested in it, I'm asking three, but I'll take $275 for it. Like, I'm helping you out, but it's not hurting me. But it's also like it's taking away from what I should be making on a gun. So, just I'll stop there. But